once again, the governor says, your boy John Bel, says we are headed to another fiscal cliff. This is a term that he has previously used and one that you don't necessarily buy into. How about this time?
Well, if there is any kind of fiscal cliff or fiscal crisis, it's completely self-created. The one thing that you can't get past, and if you just go back to Bobby Jindal's last budget, and I'm no fan of Bobby Jindal's budgets. I voted against Jindal's budgets more often than John Bel did. But universities didn't close. We fully funded TOPS. Hospitals didn't close. There was no crisis. And if we pass this year, Jindal's last budget, if we just duplicate that, we would have a $3 to $4 billion surplus. So that's how much spending has gone up since John Bel became governor, $3 to $4 billion per year. So if there's not enough money, it's not because of a lack of money.
But isn't it the Medicaid expansion? Wasn't that the big bulk of it?
It's partly. But he keeps saying Medicaid expansion saves us $300 million a year. It absolutely doesn't. It costs us about $3 billion a year, and that's something that he did by executive order, not by vote of the legislature. So if there is a fiscal crisis, it's one that he created himself.
So walk us through sort of the line in the sand, if you will, that the governor has drawn. What is it that he is, in my mind at least, and maybe yours, daring the legislature to do or not do?
He's ignoring half of the problem. When you have a budget, it's a two-pronged problem. You have revenue. The other side, you have spending. His plan has absolutely no spending cut component to it. He wants to raise taxes to meet the number without any corresponding reductions in spending. And that's just wrongheaded. My position from the beginning has been, since Jindal was governor, we need a serious discussion about budget reform. And we're not going to have one if the legislature keeps raising taxes every time that this fiscal crisis comes up. The governor wants to spend more money, so we just give it to him.
He says it's going to be revenue neutral, Alan. Are you crazy?
No, that's not what he said. And
okay.
It's not revenue neutral. What he's saying, if we do nothing, that extra 1 penny sales tax goes away. What he's wanting us to do is raise taxes to meet that. So it's not revenue neutral. Revenue neutral is swapping something for nothing. Swapping something for something else. If we do nothing, taxes go down by $880 million a year. He wants us to replace that with something permanent. And that's an increase no matter how you slice or dice it. He's asking us to permanently raise taxes on the people of the state of Louisiana because he won't look at his own administration and try to cut anything. And I got this email that he sent out with his priorities. He actually had the gall to put in there that he has cut millions of dollars of spending. That's an absolute bald-faced lie.
Will you send that email on to me when you get a minute?
Yeah.
We would love to share that.
It's his little plan of what he... But the problem with his quote-unquote plan is there's absolutely no specifics in it at all. He says add income, broaden the base by adding income, sales tax to services. But he doesn't specify which services.
I saw one where it was cable TV. He would tax me on my cable TV.
That's on the list, cable and satellite services. But he has stuff on there like insurance services. Not exactly sure what that is. Debt collection services, data processing services, repairs to real estate. I mean, it's very non-specific list. And it's not something that we can work with. What he's essentially said is he wants the Republicans to come to him by January 19 and say, these are the taxes that we will raise, and then we work out some sort of deal. And the problem, we have approached it from the beginning. We want to talk about spending cuts and spending and budget reform before we talk about tax increases. And he's essentially saying, no, let's have the tax increase discussion first.
Alan, we had Billy Nungesser on a couple of days ago as far as the penny tax rollover or it going away is concerned, and Mr. Billy said that he thought it was a good idea that it would go away, But he said, given the cuts to various departments, and he said his lieutenant governor's office has been cut by 10% just in the last year. And he said, I wish it would go away. He said, but I don't see a way around keeping it. I would assume you disagree?
I mean, I'd like it to go away, too. I will say it's the one tax that has some Republican support. But the problem is it doesn't have the governor's support or any Democrat support. If there is any support for keeping the fifth penny, it's on the Republican side. I voted against it the first time. I voted against it. I voted against renewing it or putting it back. But especially because what they're asking us to do now is make it permanent. When it was passed a couple of years ago, it was a temporary tax. What they're asking us now to do is make it permanent. We have the highest sales tax in the nation, and they're asking us to make that permanent. I strongly disagree with that, and the governor disagrees, and most of the Democrats disagree. That is the one tax that has some Republican support, which makes it interesting. The question is, at the end of the day, will the Democrats take it if it's all they can get? And it'll take 2/3 vote to get there, and I just don't think there's votes to get to 2/3 on any tax increases. Some of the credits and the exemptions only requires a majority vote because of how they're structured. They can probably get to a majority vote, but barely.
Alan, let me ask you this. We got our last minute here. If the governor and you guys don't come to an agreement by January 19th, he's not going to even call a special session. So he's going to take his ball and go home, and you guys take your ball and go home. Where does that leave us?
Well, it leaves us with what we've been wanting to do for a long time, which is solve the problem through budget cuts. We've got to pass a budget. The governor has to present us with a budget, but we don't have to pass his budget. What he's going to do is what Obama did during the sequester. He's going to try to cut things that are visible that everybody sees, like tops, and that's not necessary. We believe that we can solve the problem through budget cuts that, frankly, I don't think too many people will notice. And we'll see. The problem is going to be getting it through the Senate. He completely controls the Senate, and he has a veto pen.
Yeah.
He can line things out of it, but he can't add money. He can only take out spending in certain areas. So we think we can solve it through budget cuts.